Distinguished and respected colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal the National Directorate of Employment Act Cap 28 Laws of Federation of Nigeria 2004 and to establish the National Youth Employment and Development Agency Act 2017 to provide for the promotion, coordination and employment of youths in Nigeria and for other matters connected therein. Mr. President, it is my pleasure to lead the debate on this all-important bill, Mr. President. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on the general principles of this important bill for an act to repeal the National Directorate of Employment Act Cap 28 Laws of Federation of Nigeria 2004 and in its place enact the National Youth Employment and Development Agency Act Cap 2017. This bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on December 2016. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this bill primarily seeks to expand the scope of the existing National Directorate on Employment law to accommodate poverty eradication, creation of employment-related plans and programs of government, and incorporate issues of youth development and empowerment, and strengthen this operation for the optimum performance. The objective of this bill, Mr. President and colleagues, are to generate employment and entrepreneurship and ensure greater opportunities for youth to secure decent work and income over the life cycle, thereby contributing to a virtuous cycle of poverty reduction, sustainable development and social inclusion. To protect their rights and civic engagements by ensuring that the inherent rights of the youth are recognized and upheld to enable the engagement of young people in all aspects of their development. To ensure the progressive and substantive inclusion of young people in political and decision-making process at local, state, and national level. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the National Directorate of Employment, NDE, was created to combat unemployment in the country arising from the global economic recession in the 1980s. The Directorate carries out this mandate through various programs such as skills acquisition, self-employment schemes, and labor-intensive programs. However, much of these employment schemes by the Directorate are relevant and important. There is limit to which they can be relied upon in this 21st century to provide a lasting solutions to youth unemployment and development. This is because the NDA Act has become obsolete and is replete with deficiencies which have so far jeopardized or hampered its operations and execution of its mandate. Similarly, poor funding, since the Directorate relies mainly on annual subvention from the federal government for its sustenance. Low productivity and low morale of its employees have also hindered its performance in the past years. This is why the unemployment rate in Nigeria has not abated, but has been on a steady increase over the years, with the resultant high rate in social vices. Mr. President, my distinguished and respected colleagues, Nigeria's unemployment rate rose for the 7th straight quarter to 13.9% pro rata in the third quarter of 2016 from 13.3% in the previous period. This is the highest level since 2009. Recent figures from the National Bureau of Statistics reveals that unemployment labor force now stands at 75.9 million Nigerians youths. This is a national calamity. The various intervention funds of over 2 trillion, as like earlier stated by Senator Rozoko, expended by the federal government in the past few years has had no commensurate impact in terms of job creation, as most of the funds were diverted to other uses due to lack of an enabling legislation. The multiplicity of entrepreneurship skills acquisition centers across the country without adequate funding and sustainability of programs has further deepened the unemployment crisis in Nigeria. Mr. President, my distinguished and respected colleagues, the extant NDE Act does not capture or address sufficiently the challenges or issues affecting youth development, empowerment, and employment, which has now taken a global dimension and has attracted resolutions by international organizations, for example, United Nations Women Program, UNDP, Youth Strategy, and Commonwealth Plans of Action for Youth Empowerment, have all drawn up elaborate strategies to assist and empower the youth while at the same time calling the attention of member nations to take concrete steps to address the problems of youth employment and empowerment for a sustainable and better future, of which this bill tends to achieve. Mr. President, my distinguished and respected colleagues across the globe, and Nigeria in particular, the economic recession has had a dramatic impact on the challenges facing young people seeking jobs. Apart from the challenges in terms of access to equal opportunities to jobs, the youth also have challenges in having a voice on decisions that affect their lives as well as their future. Majority of our youth today are faced with the following problems: inadequate parental care, non-availability of suitable sports and recreational facilities, moral decadence in the society, religious fanaticism, cultism, political manipulation of youth organizations, unemployment and underemployment, poor education, breakdown of family values, militancy, kidnapping activities, etc. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, we are all aware that Nigeria is globally acknowledged to be the country of diverse opportunities. With a population of over 170 million people, it is supposed to be an entrepreneur's paradise. It is, however, a paradox that as an economic giant, Nigeria has instead created a hostile environment that is unfavorable for youth to achieve their entrepreneurial success in the midst of an array of entrepreneurial programs. Although government has tried to encourage entrepreneurship by implementing programs aimed at aiding young people create jobs for themselves or support their businesses, such programs have only assisted just a selected few in the past in comparison to the large population of Nigerians, and these programs are not sustainable enough to achieve its aim. Take, for instance, the UWIN, the National Master Plan for Encouraging Entrepreneurs, has celebrated only 1,200 awardees since its inception 3 years ago. The program stipulates 400 awardees per year, of which just a little percentage are below 30 years of age. There are around 80 million youths in Nigeria today, with about 80% of them unemployed. If the government carries on at this pace, it will probably solve the problem of unemployment in the next 50,000 years, assuming there are even 60 million unemployed youths in Nigeria. Mr. President, my distinguished and respected colleagues, it is in response to this national phenomenon of young people, of young men and women agitating for a meaningful civic, economic, social, and political participation that informed the imperative for this all-important legislation. The new bill identifies development challenges and issues confronting Nigerian youth today and offers forward-looking recommendations for strategic entry points and engagement of a broad spectrum of partners, including the young people themselves, in addressing youth employment and empowerment issues in Nigeria. The bill further takes cognizance of the National Youth Policy and Strategic Plan of Action of the federal government and other international conventions on youth employment and development. It also offers a systematic and sustainable actions to support the youth in the increasing complex development context for social, economic, and political transformation. This bill, when passed into law, will harness all efforts of governments and private sector to promote self-employment at the grassroots through sustainable facilitation of entrepreneurial skills. Funding of the agency. A critical and important aspect of the new bill is the establishment of a National Youth Development Fund to finance the execution of programs of the agency. The fund is to be managed by a board of trustees to be headed by the Minister in charge of Labor, Employment and Productivity, with the oversight power of National Assembly, while its membership shall be drawn from relevant ministries, parastatals, the private sector, youth organizations, and relevant NGOs. The funds of the agency shall also consist of initial take-off grant for funds, monies accruing from 2% taxable dividends of multinational companies, banks, corporate bodies, and other financial institutions, 2% youth development tax on contracts of 100 million naira and above ordered by the federal government, 10% of annual budgetary expenditure of states and local government to be allocated to youth employment and development programs. Annual budgetary allocations are appropriated by the National Assembly for that purpose. Interest on investment of agencies, monies lawfully received from any other source, and which must be disclosed not later than 90 days. Donations and contributions lawfully received by the agency from any other source. In the National Youth Employment and Development Advisory Council. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, another important aspect of this legislation is the establishment of an interministerial council to be known as the National Youth Employment and Development Council, to be chaired by Mr. President. Membership of the council shall include governors of the 36 states, Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Minister of Labour and Productivity, and the Minister of Youth and Sports. The function of the Council shall include to serve as a clearinghouse on all youth policies matters of national interest and to elevate concern for the problems and aspirations of the youth to the priority of interministerial level at the national agenda. Coordinate and streamline youth employment and development activities at the federal and state level, as well as the role of the private sector and NGOs in line with the provision of this Act. Propose policy recommendations on matters concerning youth employment and development, including the utilization of youth development funds, serve as a link between government, the private sector, NGOs to ensure that the provision of this Act are implemented and their effect reach the intended beneficiaries, the youth of this country. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this bill is therefore anchored in the belief that young people are a force for peace, democracy, equality, and good governance, a catalyst for national consensus building, and an essential resource for a sustainable development and poverty eradication, and the hope for a better society. Mr. President, my distinguished and respected colleagues, as a youth-centered chamber, I solicit your support and commitment towards solving one of the most significant national challenges facing our nation, guaranteeing a sustainable future of hope for the Nigerian youth. I thank you for your support towards the speedy process and passage of this bill into law, and therefore move that this all-important bill be read the second time. Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues.